Well, we come to a strange chapter in the book of Genesis today, a sad chapter for Abraham and an odd negotiation. So let's read chapter 23. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. She died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abram went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. Then Abraham rose from beside his dead wife and spoke to the Hittites. He said, I am a foreigner and stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site here, so that I can bury my dead. Let's just pause for a moment. Abraham left his home with his family to travel to the land that God had promised would be theirs. They had shared that land with Lot. They'd been down to Egypt in famine and come back. And as Sarah dies, having seen the promise of God that they would have the son Isaac fulfilled, as Sarah dies, they own no land whatsoever in Canaan. They are still foreigners and strangers. They have no property. There is no place to call home yet. They are still a long way off this promise being fulfilled. Hebrews tells us that these great heroes of faith from the Old Testament died still waiting for the promise. Those promises made to Abraham were not fulfilled in his lifetime. They were yet to be fulfilled, and there's a sense in which we still wait for that promised land, which will finally be fulfilled when Jesus comes again and the new heavens and the new earth are ushered in. And so for Abraham it's a life of faith, and even at the point of death then they are still trusting God. It has not been all about this life and the fulfillment of it. Now that's a huge lesson for us. It's the one that Hebrews holds out for us in chapter 11. That we wait home, and it's not here, and so we live by faith, trusting, waiting for that fulfillment. So here is Abraham. He's now lost his wife. He's got the son of promise, but not a great big family by any means. He's got no property, and now he's lost his wife, and he wants to bury her. He wants to pay respects to the body of his wife, and so he asks the Hittites to sell him some property. The Hittites replied to Abraham, Sir, listen to us. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. So this is interesting, isn't it? Although Abraham has no property, he is regarded as a mighty leader in the area. His household has grown. He's a nomadic herder, but he's influential, he's powerful, and the local landowners are happy to give him a tomb for his wife. None of them will refuse him, even the choicest of their tombs, out of respect for him. So we see something of God's promise coming true here in terms of the greatness of his family. Then Abraham rose and bowed down before the people of the land, the Hittites. He said to them, If you're willing to let me bury my dead, then listen to me and intercede with Ephron, son of Zohar, on my behalf, so that he will sell me the cave of Machpelah, which belongs to him and is at the end of his field. Ask him to sell it to me for the full price as a burial site among you. So they're saying, out of respect to you, we're happy to give you the choicest of our tombs. Abraham is saying, that's very kind if you're happy for me to bury my dead amongst you as a foreigner and stranger. It's a sign of belonging. That's great, but I want to pay for this. I want to pay the full value, and so can you ask this particular individual for this particular cave. Ephron the Hittite was sitting among his people, and he replied to Abraham in the hearing of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of his city. No, my lord, he said, listen to me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the presence of my people. Bury your dead. Again Abraham bowed down before the people of the land, and he said to Ephron in their hearing, Listen to me if you will. I will pay the price of the field. Accept it from me so that I can bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, Listen to me, my lord, the land is worth 400 shekels of silver, but what is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham agreed to Ephron's terms and weighed out for him the price he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver according to the weight current among the merchants. So Ephron's field in Machpelah near Mamre, both the field and the cave in it, and all the trees within the borders of the field, was legally made over to Abraham as his property in the presence of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of the city. Afterwards, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which is at Hebron in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave in it were legally made over to Abraham by the Hittites as a burial site. Why on earth do we have a whole chapter about the negotiation of a tomb for Sarah? Now, it's a little bit hard because there's not other scriptural stuff that sheds much light on this. This tomb and this property, this land, become important as it is the place where the ancestors will be buried. It is the patriarch's burial ground. It will crop up in the narratives in the future. It's the first link they have with ownership in the promised land. But it shows us, doesn't it, both the weakness of Abraham, that he's got no right to this at this stage. He is having to ask. And secondly, the character of Abraham that is full of respect. He doesn't go waltzing in and say, God's given this to me and therefore I'm going to take this. But he bows in respect. He treats with respect those who are around him. He is a minority living in the land and he has won their respect. But he's going to continue to earn that respect by the way that he interacts and pays his way. And so the chapter finishes with this land being legally made over to Abraham. He's not taking it by force. He's not taken unjustly, he's paid for it. And I think there's just wisdom for us here, living as a minority today in our own land, thinking through how we relate to those around us, how we relate to the fact that this is not our home. We are just passing through this world, and therefore how we relate to our own property and those sorts of things, and how we live amongst people who are not believing and not trusting at the moment. It's worth watching Abraham's manner and attitude. And the fact that he's not just on the take, but he's happy to pay his way and to be respectful as he does that. But also to remember that we are living by faith and this world is not our home. And that's a huge challenge for us today as we think about our own properties and our possessions and how we treat them and how we think of the future and all that's to come and where the promise of God fits in for us. So let's just ponder those things as we go through today. Let's be thinking about that heavenly city which we are waiting to come down, to descend from heaven to this earth, that new creation that we have as our inheritance.